how each generation deals with conflict. And we're just I know conflict and is pretty much the same as what we just talked about, but a little bit different because, like what you were just talking about actually leads into that perfectly. How does each generation deal with conflict? I've heard there's the, okay, let's take it outside generation, and there's the, I'm going to unfriend you and pretend that I never saw this generation. And I don't even have to tell you which ones are which. And then everybody else is somewhere in the middle, right? So the silent generation, I think they kind of stay pretty stable, right?
They showed a lot of restraint.
Yeah, they did. And and still it goes back to duty, right? You got to think about where they're from. Respectful. They will respectfully usually I think of the older gentlemen, they have the gentleman's conversation, right? Let's sit down and talk about this over a cup of coffee. It reminds me of my grandfather. He was in that generation, and that was the way we're going to sit down as men and discuss this, right? We're not going to talk about our feelings, right?
No, we're talking
We're going to talk
the
about
issue.
the conflict.
We're going to leave our guns at home and our fists in our pockets.
Right.
We're just going to talk about it.
Right. And so baby boomers, let's move on to them. Carrie, how do you feel like that that your generation handles conflict?
I think what's here is probably pretty accurate. I think there are a lot of holdover from the silent generation,
Yeah.
just avoiding conflict.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mean that in a negative way, but just it wasn't something people were comfortable with. They didn't know how to do it, and because it was going to involve feelings, and
Yeah.
that was just not something. It says here there are several styles, often competitive or assertive, especially in work settings, can be direct, but also can just not say anything, hold a grudge. And there again, and taking criticism personally, just because of how, they're wired, what their worth is. And
Absolutely. Gen X?
Gen X. Whew.
Let's talk about Gen X.
How many
deals with
after-school
conflict.
fights did I get into?
Conflict resolution.
Exactly. I mean, that's.
I am one.
I'm not saying that to brag or anything, but man, when I was in school, if you got into a conflict with somebody, there wasn't none of this sit down and let's talk about it. It's like, I'll meet you behind a building after school.
The monkey bars.
At the monkey bars. But then it was cool the next day. We were cool.
That's right. Yes.
We were cool with it.
It almost seems like that's the violent generation.
Well, maybe.
I see it a little. So instead of violent, I see it as the generation that was able to find a resolution to the conflict and yet still move on.
Yeah.
And it also taught us how to be respectful, because there were some people that you didn't say exactly what you wanted to say to, because you knew the consequence was that they outweighed you by 50 pounds and they'd be waiting for you outside.
Oh, you had a level of discernment is what I'm hearing.
So it taught us how to have restraint, to still show value to other people, because if you drop that too low, you got in a fight. But it also really led to fixing it and moving on in a way that saved the relationship, because our relationships are in person.
Yeah.
And you have to still have whatever level of relationship that you had to start with after the fight's over. So how you handled the fight mattered. We may have gotten in fist fights, but nobody was, knocked unconscious and seriously hurt, because you still had to see them the next day in school. And sometimes they had lots of friends.
And so the principal could still paddle you.
And the principal could still paddle you. And so it taught us how to show restraint and appropriate honor to the relationships, but yet still find resolution in a way that was permanent.
So what do you guys think about this? It says avoidant or passive aggressive, especially in emotional situations.
Oh, yeah, we were passive aggressive.
If the guy was bigger than you, you didn't directly become aggressive. You learned how to be a smart aleck and still make your point.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's move on. What about millennials? I'm gonna let you, Angela, take that one since you're a millennial mom.
All right, let's see.
That's interesting. More likely to use the I statement.
How do you think your millennial dealt with conflict? Or millennials in general?
Authenticity. Okay, so core values was authenticity, collaboration, emotional intelligence. I agree. conflict style, collaborative or expressive, tend to talk things out and seek mutual understanding. I could see that.
So they were the more talk and not fight,
Yes.
fist fight generation.
I think that was the last result
yeah.
for them.
Okay.
You know, if
Yeah.
if they couldn't use everything else, I statements and emotional language, yeah, conflict can feel personal, especially if value-based disagreements and open communication, mediation, digital expression, text, social media. I could see that. Mine is a male, so I
Yeah.
think it was a little different.
different,
Yeah,
yeah.
a little different. But I do think that there was some conversations to try to resolve it, and then at the end of it, there might have been some confrontation,
Right.
if necessary. But I think everything else preceded that to try to resolve any conflict.
Gen Z, how do you guys handle conflict?
Core values, inclusivity. Oh my goodness. Mental health awareness. Yeah. Transparency. Conflict style, confrontational but sensitive. Yeah. More comfortable calling out behavior, especially around justice issues.
Yeah, very justice minded.
Very
Yeah.
justice minded.
I
High
agree.
value placed on boundaries and safe spaces. May cancel or distance rather than engage if conflict feels toxic.
Okay.
Okay. Common behavior, calling out online or offline, seeking peer validation, using mental health language, and conflict.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
He says sure.
So they consider conflict resolution defriending somebody on a social media platform, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's very true.
Yeah.
Disconnection instead of processing.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
absolutely
just-
true.
Cutting someone off online.
And what kind of mental health language is used during
I
conflict?
have no idea.
I think they're probably, well, we learned that they're more out to receive mental health, right? And I think that's more from what we learned for validation of how they're feeling. I think it's more.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you say mental health, I feel attacked by what you're saying to me.
Right.
Yes.
You're crossing my boundaries.
Yes, you're crossing my boundaries.
Yeah.
There's a lot of situations where they've gone silent from the parent or the
Yes.
situation
Yeah.
because they have their boundaries, and so now they're acting on those boundaries. So
Okay.
I think there's a lot to that.
Well, if you Google conflict resolution strategies, you know that the Gen Z generation goes to the internet for information. Who authors the information they're reading? Mental health professionals authored it. And so they've adopted a lot of the language that the older generation didn't necessarily use and still thinks is a little weird, and we're not really comfortable with mental health as a concept. And so there's the conflict.
Yeah.
But they're using the language to try to
Yeah,
express how they're feeling, and that
Yeah.
absolutely.
On a side note, but I've noticed like now there are apps and things like that that are mental health related. They're not exactly therapy, but it's again, it's done digitally behind a screen, and yeah.
They use it as a weapon sometimes.
Yes.
Like, I have this problem and you know I do. But it's like a made up problem.
Like a shield almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're more apt to go out on the internet to try to find information
Right.
to help with the conflict or help with their emotions.
Yeah.
More so than I know for sure Gen X and even some of the millennials.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like they think they have more problems than they actually do. Like, it's looking up symptoms of like, if you're like sick and you look up, I have a sore throat, you know, it could be a symptom of throat cancer.
Right.
But I see that as like, I have this symptom of, I don't know, some kind of depression, and they link it to something
Yeah.
that they looked up online.
Because their whole world is online.
Right.
Yeah,
Pretty
and they're like,
much.
oh, I must
Yeah.
have that.
Right. It's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear then.
And anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They think they have more problems than they do.
Yeah.
And they think they're the first generation that's really grown up being able to see real world problems that don't exist in their neighborhood. You know, our problems were the problems in our neighborhood.
Right.
Their problems are the problem global scale, and so they're very justice minded. They're very social justice minded. They want to make a difference, and they want to be part of the solution to these things,
Yeah.
which then they internalize. And when it comes to conflict, they're apt to respond and comment and maybe even attack on social media in order to help bring in the justice that they feel is missing in these massive world problems. And so they're for confrontation, but they also, most of their interaction was online and via social media, and so that's the outlet as opposed to face they handle it.
Do you think because they carry around the world in their pocket in a piece of plastic, that they perceive there's more conflicts that need to be resolved simply because they have the world in their
It's
hands?
heavy.
Well, they're inundated with information. We all are.
And
but
it's all
they-
negative.
Yeah.
It's all negative.
Exactly.
And so it's easy now to access that. Whereas with Gen X, we were outside. I mean, very minimal information.
Right.
I remember going to the library to get whatever I needed. Right.
Yeah, and it was outdated.
But this is completely 24/7. You are getting that information.
Yes.
And I can only imagine what that does to a person when they're consuming a lot of negativity.
Yes.
They're going to respond and look for avenues to help them navigate it, good or bad.
Could you imagine if Gen X had the internet?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, we did. A lot of us did.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, if we had
Towards
cell
the
phones
end,
and
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
But it wasn't anything like
Not
today.
like it is today.
No.
Nothing like
Not
today.
Google. I mean, when did Google? It was in the 90s, right? Google
if not
came to
later.
be.
Search AOL search engine.
Oh,
Yeah.
AOL
Back in the day.
In the dial-up. Who still remembers the dial-up
Oh
noise?
yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and waiting for it to go
Don't
all the
have
way
a call
across the
come
screen.
And you
Yeah,
read a book while a
and
page
you
was
can't
loading.
talk on
Yeah.
the phone and be on the internet at
Yeah.
the same time. Yes, it was torture.
Yeah, which is why Gen X's conflict resolution was in person, because that's how we dealt with the scope of our problems in our
Yes.
neighborhood. Gen Z is trying to affect change in a bigger venue, and the only way they can confront it is oftentimes digitally.
That's so true.
I just realized my grandsons are Gen Z, and one of them for sure. The things that he's talked to me about are things I would have never thought about it. His never even, I was just playing and going to school and coming in for dinner, and he's thinking about tornadoes and bombs and yeah.
Less safety in the world perceived
Yes.
now than there was then.
That's right.
That's true. I mean, I remember the most scary thing from our generation was learning what to do, and I believe this started in World War II, was learning what to do if there was a tornado or a bombing.
Yep.
And where did you go?
Out in the hall. Yeah, under your desk.
Under
or
your
out in the hall.
desk.
Yeah.
In California, it was earthquakes.
Earthquakes,
So we
yeah.
learned that was, and everything else under that. So
Well, now there's training for shootings.
Yeah, but these
School shootings.
generations, I mean, they got police officers that
Yes.
are at their schools. And
It's a lot different.
yes,
very
it's a
different
lot.
environment.